Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Juju Show number 10. We hit double digits. Yay! So 10 straight shows, which is great. And I've got some guests here with me to talk about today's topic. Casey, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Casey's with us from the jazz team, working on jazzy stuff, along with Jay, who's also on a similar team there. How you doing, Jay?
As good as I can be.
All right. I had holiday last week, so I'm coming back from vacation all lovely and refreshed and everything. So let's blow through some what did I miss while I was away material. So, community news of the week. First up, there was a really good post to the mailing list, and then a follow-up blog post that was linked on testing your software. And what I liked was the operation side of it with Travis. So the post talks about how to set up Travis to test yours, which are operating your software that you keep as well. And so it was a great kind of 1-2 punch of, it's great that you have your software in one repo, you've got your charm, your operations know-how in the other one, and with Travis you can test to make sure everything works together. And we'll have links to those in the show notes. But it was a really good walkthrough, and it's a nice, they put together something that's really easy, a few lines of a config file, and voila, you start to have testing stuff go on. So it's always fun. And you guys ever play with Travis?
Yeah.
Open source stuff.
Awesome tool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we depend on
it. Yeah, I really look forward to it. The one thing I think that will be good is that they seem to lag behind a little bit with the Ubuntu releases and things. So I know sometimes we have to work around that, but it's still a great tool they've put together. So if you're playing with Charms at all and you want to make sure you have that kind of normal, best practice CI workflow, check out the posts in the description. Next up, there was the review of some different charms that come up through the normal review cycle. The ones I wanted to call out was the Kubernetes stack of charms. Seem to have gotten revisioned up while I was away. Definitely, if you're using those, make sure to update, check out the change logs, and kind of see what's new and great in the latest Kubernetes. I believe it was updating to a new version of Kubernetes as well. So make sure you check the link out to what's new in those charms and upgrades. And the next one to bring up was a great help thread that's taking place and still going on today, but I wanted to highlight that the English trying to get started with they have their own OpenStack and they want to use Juju against it, and it requires a little bit of tweaking to get the credentials set up and the images set up and all that normal kind of bits of the cloud to make it configured in a way that then Juju can just consume it and enable your users to just deploy any workloads on that OpenStack and really put that cloud to use. So it's good to see a number of heads getting in there, helping to walk them through it. Looks like there's going to be some documentation and such out of it. So if you're at all curious or interested in using Juju against your own OpenStack, one of the great things I always love about Juju is that it's both private cloud and public cloud. So it can be behind the firewall or out in the open. And the next one is for the Postgres lovers out there, and I count myself from that camp. The Charm has support for WAL-E, which is a way of streaming your logs. In particular, the question hit the list about streaming your logs to S3 and how well and easy that support is baked into it. And this is a good case of Charms encapsulating the best practices of operations. So I know the author of the charm replied in on how to use it, and actually what was great was that the user was prompting for how automatic is this, and the author goes, not automatic enough, here's a patch that makes it more automatic. And you gotta love when you engage with the authors and you participate how things get better for everyone. So if you're a Postgres user, some great stuff in there for baking out that kind of replicating your logs offsite, off to S3, which then will help you do things like and enable you to do syncing between different databases there, or database servers. So if Postgres users, go check it out and rejoice. And let's see, finally, there was the charms.reactive bi-weekly catch-up. So there's a great report. The team does a great job of highlighting out their minutes from the conversation. They have this meeting every 2 weeks to look at where the charms.reactive stuff is kind of heading. This is great as a charm author for me to help keep an eye on what type of changes are planned, what type of new features I'll get, or in this case, some of the big highlights were out of simplifying leadership with the base layer. And I definitely want to call out that I think something that folks, the charms, you don't think about because there's not a lot of this in other systems, is the idea of leadership. And this was really handy when you've got some application and you've got it scaled out to 3 or 5 units, that oftentimes you need someone to make a decision on behalf of the whole. And Juju's leadership support is just vital for a lot of this. It really helps you do things like set up who is actually going to be, leader or follower, who is going to respond to the backup action request. You don't want all 5 units of your database trying to all thrash out and back up at the same time. And the ability to leverage leadership in your charms is a really important aspect. And making that easier to use and consume through the reactive framework is a huge win for everyone. So definitely check out those minutes and put that to some good use. Anything new in the charm stuff you guys saw that was exciting?
I can't think of anything. I think you covered it all.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's the news since I was away. Now let's get to the topic of the week. How many of you guys have seen there's been a lot of press in the US around the rollback of some federal regulations that prohibited ISPs from sharing your information about your browsing history? I mean, you think about everything you do on the internet goes through your ISP, right? From your little modem inside your house through all their little network. And there have been some regulations to help put some rules on that they can't share things without your permission and such. And those got rolled back, which is obviously got us techies up in crankiness, and a lot of users scratching their heads going, they can do what now? So I've seen a rather rash. I did a Google search for run your own VPN. It just said, grab me articles from the last week. And I think it paged out 8 or 9 pages worth of results for that. So it's a very popular topic right now on, hey, how do I run my own VPN? And the reasons you would want to do that is because the traffic between you and the VPN endpoint are encrypted. Right? So what this means is that from wherever from your machine to that VPN point, basically it's pretty safe from prying eyes if you're going through the VPN tunnel. And all your traffic can go through there, your web browsing, your email, your SSH connections, all that kind of stuff can go through that tunnel and help give you that security point. Now, there's that I think are really useful. I'm going to actually link to a blog post that I've got put together that goes through some other examples. You may want to do it because of blocked ports on Wi-Fi that you're sitting on, or you may want to do it just because you don't trust the Wi-Fi you're sitting on. I mean, there's a number of reasons for doing this. And I had noticed that there was an OpenVPN charm in the charm store. So how cool is that, right? What's an easy way to set up a VPN? Well, look, there's a charm that does it. And Merlin from the Tengu team, they've submitted this charm, and the link is just /openvpn on jujucharms.com, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And so I tried this charm out, which I had never used before. Oh, hey, it's Matt and Chuck. What's up, folks?
Hey, Rick. Sorry to crash the party.
Yep, sorry we're late.
All right. And so I tried this charm out, and honestly, I think it's the easiest I've ever set up a remote VPN in my life. Have you guys ever played with this OpenVPN charm in the store?
You know, the last time that I touched the OpenVPN charm, it was a Precise Series charm. So I'm pretty sure we're talking about a different release. At that time, it was still pretty easy, and I imagine that it's only gotten better. I believe that Merlin was talking about this on the list. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is definitely from Merlin and his Tengu team. So what I wanted to do was to start, let's kick off and let's demo this, right? Let's, like all great things, let's show. So I'm going to see if I click this, then this shows my laptop. Everyone see my laptop screen over here?
At the moment, we're seeing your beautiful face, or handsome face in this case.
All right, how do let's see. I would like to, maybe I have to do it from over here. And this is why we should do this for all. Share application window. So no luck, huh?
All right, I can confirm that now we're seeing the laptop screen. Yep.
Here we go. I missed the present to everyone button. There it is. All right. So I have here a prepared command. So we have a lot of folks in the company that work out of Europe, and sometimes there are problems on things we're working on that aren't obvious to me because I'm sitting very close to wherever the application served out of or whatnot. So to kind of demonstrate this, I'm going to create a new model. This is on Jazz, which is great because Jazz is already running Juju controllers for me and supports the public clouds and the various regions that those clouds support. So it's very easy for me to create a new model. I'm going to stick a VPN in Europe, and I'm going to stick it in the AWS EU West region. So I'm going to add this model, and it's going to go through and edit, and that's great. So now I can deploy this openvpn charm and fetch the charm from the store and deploy it. And there's a couple of things you have to do. You have to expose it. And the way this works is it supports multiple users, which I found really interesting. I can set the config on it and say that my clients is a list. And so I'm going to say Rick guest. So I'm going to create two different certificates, basically two different configuration files when I do this. And do I support this? I do. Yay. All right. A minute. So while that runs, though, what I'd like to do is show I already have light in the oven. All right. So let me show you from my. This is going to be a mess. Let's see if this works. I'm going to share basically my Mac I'm on. What's great is that this VPN is useful for not just Ubuntu machines and Linux machines. OpenVPN. If you look over here, can you guys see it all, this little dot up here? Probably not. It's probably too small. But I'll show you guys. It's actually a connected VPN right now I have, and it's called my VPN. And what it is, I keep a VPN kind of ready to go in the US East 2 region, which is Ohio, which is one state over from me. And so it's great to have this handy VPN kind of sitting around that I can connect to from any of my machines on my personal network. I was off at the coffee shop this morning using it to test stuff out. And so just to kind of prove, because everyone likes to see the flashing dots, I can trace to ubuntu.com, and you'll see immediately that it goes through and it's going through US East 2 region of AWS. Right? So to help make the configuration easier, one thing I did do was to create a bundle. I call it Rick VPN. And all it does is it just deploys the charm, and it shows that I have my kind of set, it's exposed, and then I have the constraint sent to get me like a very tiny machine. I don't need a huge beefy machine to run my VPN on. See that okay?
Yep, looks good for here.
All right, cool. And then I stuck a helper in the README, because what we'll show in a second, the other one's getting started and we'll demonstrate. The only thing you have to do besides deploying the OpenVPN is to get this OVPN file from down to your client and use that to configure the VPN locally. And so because I configured to have Rick and a guest, I have two different configurations that are stored and ready to go. And you can do this for a number of, it's basically keep adding as many different ones as you want. I could do this with all of us here in the room, create our own private VPN, and give everyone their own configuration file ready to go for them. These things are read on the Mac. I use a viscosity client to connect to the VPN, and on my Ubuntu machine, I use a network manager OpenVPN plugin to help me do that. Alrighty.
That's pretty cool, Rick. So I have a question. By deploying this VPN into Juju, does this mean that we can feasibly give access to our Juju deployed resources using this charm, or is that a future feature that I should request?
I believe that's a feature you should request. Let me look at. I didn't actually go poke at what relations it supports. And that is a valid question.
Okay. I mean, even if it doesn't support it, this is an excellent first start, especially considering that we're getting more and more concerned about data privacy and, you know, surfing my email from the coffee shop. Because let's face it, email is used for everything from bank notifications to, you know, life events. And we want to keep that stuff secure. So that's pretty cool.
It's definitely interesting, and it just makes it so much easier to use. I remember trying to set up OpenVPN manually before, and this made it so easy that my running line today is that you can keep a VPN in your pocket, a single Juju deploy away, and I can throw it in. One trick I'll show you if folks are interested in this, and I won't do it on my running one because I'm connected to the VPN to demonstrate how well it works to have a close by VPN. I'm doing this video call problem, is that if you don't want to, you can actually just stop the instance or remove. You can keep the model around in Jazz. There's no overhead for that at all. So for this my VPN, I can either remove the OpenVPN application with normal remove application, or I could go and actually shut down the instance if I wanted to kind of keep the minimal cost down. Either way. All right. Let me go then for my laptop here. So we can see now that everything is done and ready. Now I can Juju SCP from OpenVPN 0, and the file name is rick.ovpn. No, what is it?
No, that's correct. It should be .ovpn.
Is it OVPN? All right. And I'm going to store this as my EU VPN.ovpn. Aha, my file is done. Now, how would I go about screen sharing everything? At this point, I can show you through the GUI and the network manager that you can add it. You can also use network manager CLI to add and kick off the VPN setup. But that's all it is. Now that I've got that file locally, I can load it into my VPN client and connect, and voila. So a VPN in your pocket for everyone. Any other questions?
You know, I've got more, but I can't think of what they are. So I'm just going to have to say no.
All right, cool. One other thing that's kind of fun to point out for those of you that do charms, this charm does an interesting job with showing metrics. So if you, on my model here, if I metrics all, it will come back. And what's cool is it shows me the unit, the VPN machine, and basically tells me that I have one user connected on this. If I were to disconnect this VPN, it would show me 0. And again, this is a really interesting way of encapsulating kind of important operations knowledge. You know, how many people are using a VPN at any point in time may affect performance, may affect costs, may affect whether or not it's safe to, bring it down or change it or alter it in any way, maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So I thought this was a really interesting way of using metrics as a way to provide that kind of operational knowledge out to the user. Looking on a charm at all, it might give you an idea on something you may want to do with your own charm, whether it be spitting out things like how many current requests per second are going through something, how much bandwidth is being utilized, or any of those kind of those regular ticking things that are important operational knowledge. And because it's by unit here, what's cool is that you can in theory see how things like load balancing is doing across a number of units of a single application. All righty. I think that is it for show and tell today. If no one has anything else. Any news, I guess, Chuck and Matt, was there any news on the Kubernetes, what's new that we wanted to highlight or anything?
Yeah, we're working on in the next release here. We've got a couple of things that we're waiting for Conjure Up, but I think we're pretty close to setting out the new release where we're going to support Kubernetes 1.6.1. So that release is imminent. So we were working on that just before that. That's why we're a little bit late right now, but I believe that should be coming out later today. Yeah, and some of the features we're adding to that is we're adding delivery with snaps, and we're adding a beta feature for GPU support, so you can use GPU-enabled workloads in the cloud. So if you have some GPU-enabled workloads, you can fire up the appropriate instances in Amazon through Juju, and then deploy Kubernetes GPU workloads. It's a new beta feature that we're testing out. We're trying to figure out work the bugs out of there, but all the signs are showing that it's working, and it's going to be included in the release that we're going to make later today.
Yeah, this is going to have a big impact on workloads that want to do things like deep learning deployed via containers. Also, there have been some use cases outlined, such as video transcoding, and our colleague, Samuel Cousinet, has also published a huge blog series about how he encapsulated this and doing it as kind of extra steps once you've deployed Kubernetes. The fact that this is now baked into the charms, we've kind of professionalized the process, and we're really looking for feedback from end users that if you have GPU-enabled workloads and this is something that's up your alley, if you're doing 3D rendering, if you're doing video transcoding, deep learning, self-driving cars that are computed server-side, let us know what you've got going on there. Give these charms a deploy on Amazon, supports the P1 instance, and that will get you a GPU. And we're interested to hear your feedback and how that process went for you, and basically what workloads you're running, because we think it'd be super cool to kind of straw poll that and kind of collect that information. Because let's face it, if you're doing a GPU-enabled workload, you're riding the edge of what we're doing now in computing technology with the cloud. So that's pretty much all that I had to add, but I'm looking forward to hear that feedback.
Yeah, I've played with the ImageNet classifier, following the instructions. There's this article I shared in chat. I don't know if that's going out, but serving inception models with TensorFlow, serving, and Kubernetes. You could definitely deploy, follow these instructions, but deploy the containers into a Kubernetes instance with GPU, and it should work. It'd be an interesting experiment to try that out. So looking forward to that. Definitely, it's a lot of fun. It was telling me what kind of cats I had. It was great.
Somebody had deployed an interesting workload where it was a deep learning neural net deployed on top of Kubernetes, and what they would do is it learned how to make suggestions based on a squiggle that you drew. For example, you would draw like a double curly S, and it would prompt up at the top like you would in a WYSIWYG editor, and you can click on it, and it transforms that squiggle into a snake. Or 4 circles, and it suggests a dog. You click the dog, and it draws a dog. It was a fantastic experiment. I'll have to fix that up. Maybe we can include those in the release notes too. So kind of help foster the excitement for these workloads, because they're going to transform, how we interact with server-side applications, I feel.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
Yep. Well, let's make sure to stick those links in the show notes, and I will see you all in the next Juju Show, buddy.
Okay. Thank you.